We want to take you back to Capitol Hill. If there was one major embarrassment to the last couple of months, it was, of course, the White House party crashers, Tariq and Michaela Salahi. There they are. They are being asked to testify about what they did and how they did it. We are anticipating that they're going to invoke their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination and refuse to testify. But there's a formal process by which they actually have to do it in person if the committee wants them to. So we expect to see that play out. Why don't we listen just very briefly so you can get a taste of this hearing?
Take a look at them today. Dressed to the T. These beautiful people would have broken through in some manner, shape, or form to be alongside the President of the United States. I want to mention, Mr. Chairman, to all the proponents of racial and ethnic profiling, that this case involving these two individuals, the Salahis, just goes to show that while you're looking for a certain kind of person fitting a certain profile, you're gonna miss the real targets. Behavioral profiling is in order, and these two people are living proof. So I don't respect your right to take the Fifth Amendment. Not at all. Because it didn't have to be the President of the United States. It could have been somebody else. It could have been someone not as important as the President of the United States. You broke protocol. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Salahi. Did you wear a tuxedo that night? Are you going to take the fifth on that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully assert my rights.
Let me ask you a question. Were you there?
On the advice of counsel?
Are you here today, Mr. Salahi? Are you here right now? You got to get an answer from your attorney on that? Your attorney bobbed his head up and down when my good friend from Pennsylvania was discussing the possibilities that someone from the White House should be here also testifying. He was going like this and this. You can do it all you want. You're not going to take the heat off your clients. No one's going to take the fall for them. So there may have been something wrong going on, and maybe the White House made a mistake, but they're not here to plead the fifth. No, I don't want any comments. I plead the fifth on your question.
Mr. Pascrell,
I'll continue. Mr. and Mrs. Salahi, I believe the entire committee does that. We could move on from the frivolous, fake celebrity nature of this issue and concentrate on the security breach itself, which every American should rightfully be concerned about. Because if you were two folks sitting here from Paterson, New Jersey, long-robed, with those hats on your top of your head, I wonder if you would have gotten through as you swished through in front of the cameras. Your presence is required specifically so you could answer the events of that night, to the events of that night. This committee gave you every opportunity to speak behind closed doors. Did it not, Mr. Salahi? Did it not?
You did, but you didn't afford us any legal protection. You wanted us to speak versus our attorneys.
So we did give you that opportunity.
Without any legal protection.
And yet you continue to evade every opportunity to present your side of the story. The fact that you now appear here and are unwilling to speak to any details. And I associate myself with the words of Mr. Longren, who put it very plainly and simple and to the point. The fact of the matter is that you used the Secret Service to say so many nice things about them, and what you've done is defied the will of authority. This whole episode's been a stunt and a charade upon your part to gain attention and notoriety. So desperately you seek, apparently. I want to turn my attention away from you, because I don't believe that you have anything to offer this committee. And it is my hope that they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The issue we should be concentrating on is the failures in security. We do not know, we now know, that there was at least one other uninvited guest who made it into the White House that night. It was another person. A fact that was never disclosed by the Secret Service during our first hearing. That individual was Carlos Allen.
Gentleman's time has expired. For the record, Mr. Pascrell, let me
so that was Congressman Bill Pascrell. He's a Democrat from New Jersey. Fascinating grilling there, working up against the fact that the Salahis are invoking their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, and it's sort of a slippery slope because to the extent that they answer questions, that could conceivably open the door to Congress asking more questions. So that's why the Salahis at every opportunity were having to turn around and ask their lawyer, how should I answer this? And they essentially only answered the question about not having their legal representation when they were meeting with the committee. What Congressman Pascrell has just signaled, though, is that the next option for the committee, if they want them to testify, if they want the Salahis to testify, is they would have to give them immunity for their testimony. And that would essentially take away their Fifth Amendment rights. But what you just heard from Congressman Pascrell, with him saying, I hope you get prosecuted, is that Congress has decided, no, they're not going to give immunity to the Salahis. They're going to leave it up to federal prosecutors to investigate it. And so what you have is essentially political theater today on both sides. You have the Congress trying to make their points, knowing that the Salahis are not going to be able to testify, not going to be willing to testify. You have the Congressman Pascrell essentially badgering the witnesses over the most simple questions like, are you here? Were you wearing a tuxedo? And you have the Salahis in the very sort of awkward public position of having to turn around and ask their attorneys, what do I do with these questions? So a fascinating hearing this morning on Capitol Hill.